really boils down to our habits, ladies and gentlemen. You know this. This is nothing new. It's nothing that you haven't heard before, but it's a reminder. What are you doing on a daily basis? Right? Whatever our habits are, that's what we become. So what are your habits telling you that you are? What are the habits that you're putting in place every single day? Good habits, bad habits, it doesn't matter, but what are your habits? There's a lot of stuff in there that, again, you can take in, you can listen to, you can learn, you can pick up some things that I wrote down, right? There's no pride in playing small. So I don't know if you're living a small life. There's no pride in playing small, right? You can live a big life. You can make sure that you go out there and you impact your community and you impact the world, and people know your name and your great grandchildren know who you are, and they know how you changed your family's tree forever. That's playing a big game. You can play a big game, but the key is you got to make a decision. You got to make a decision to live a better life. I know you hear it over and over again. You hear a lot of this stuff, but have you made the decision to live a better life? Have you made the decision that you're going to push forward in whatever things are happening around you, in whatever tornado you're in, right? Whatever plates you need to spin around, you've made the decision that you're still going to go after that better life. You've made the decision that you're still going to do the things that make you uncomfortable. You're still going to push through the hard times. You're still going to get in the mental gym and get your mental toughness. You've already made the decision. So I think Eric Thomas in there was talking about counting the cost. Don't count the cost. Before you start something, if you're like, all right, this is what it's going to be. I got to sacrifice these days, these hours, these times. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm going to have to change the way I diet or change the way I move my body or change my schedule or change this relationship. You count the cost, you might give up right away. You might be like, that's too much, right? We're always negotiating. We're negotiating the price we have to pay to get to the life we want. You ask for a life. We all ask for something. We ask for something better, something up ahead, to relieve some type of stress, to relieve some type of anxiety or depression, or gain our financial well-being, or whatever it is. We've asked for some things, but then we negotiate the price that we got to pay. I put this in our group chat for the team. I said, hey, what if I told you that, right, you getting to the life you want was going to cost you some weekends? There are going to be some Saturdays and Sundays that you don't get to do what the rest of the family does. You don't get to relax. You don't get to go to the party. You miss the wedding. You don't get to go to the family event every single time. What if I told you the price to getting you successful would cost some of those things? It would cost you some of your relationships. Would you still go after it? Would you still want those things? We have to be mindful of that. We have to make the decision to live a better life. We can't count the costs. We have to go all in and say, this is what I want more than anything. That's why this process, ladies and gentlemen, of getting our mind in the right place is really you getting clear on what you want most. That's really all this process is, you getting clear on what you want most. Andy Frisilla in that video said, like, no more wishing and hoping, and those aren't strategies. Like, what is the thing or the things or the lifestyle or the feeling you want the most? That when it comes to the end of your life, you're like, I fought a good fight because I started to feel and experience the things that I wanted most. I didn't live in fear. I wasn't always in scarcity. I wasn't always in survival mode. I wasn't always stressed out. I didn't always have my time being pulled many different ways. I got to live a life that I wanted. What's that thing? And the clearer we can get on that, the more we don't have to count the costs, because that's all we want. And so that's the challenge, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I would encourage all of you to do. Not count the costs. It said something in there. Don't rush the process. Trust the process. Don't rush the process. Trust the process. I gave this to somebody I was mentoring, and so I'll give it to you guys. I heard this a while ago, but it makes sense for any of you that are very ambitious. I don't know all of your levels of ambition, but I have a high level of ambition. Like, I want the whole cake. I want the whole thing, right? Like, we're gonna go after the whole deal. Deca billions, right? Like, we're going after the whole entire thing. So I heard for anybody that has a high level of patience or a high level of ambition, you're a level 10 on ambition, you have to have an equal amount of patience in order to get that thing. If you're a level 10 ambition, you have to have a level 10 patience in order to be able to get there. Where we start to run into problems is if we have a level 10 ambition and we want all of it, but we have a level 2 patience. When we start taking shortcuts, then we start rushing the process. We start not maturing. We start not going through the seasons that God has us go through because we're rushing the process. Rushing the process. We have a small amount of patience. We got a lot of things we want to get to, but we don't have the patience to actually get there. So it causes us to make our missteps, right? To cut the process short, to not be the full butterfly coming out of that cocoon, right? Like that's a process. They can't caterpillar or butterfly like can't come out early because the wings aren't developed. It's not going to be able to live. It's not going to be able to fly. So that's something for you. Don't rush the process that God has you in. Don't rush the process that you're in right now. Just trust the process. Trust that you're heading in the right direction if you're paying attention to your habits and doing the right things every day. Can't trust the process that you're not actually going through. You're not actually sacrificing. You're not actually getting uncomfortable. You're not actually stepping out of your comfort zone and reading books and changing your environment and doing all the hard stuff. There's no process to trust. You're trusting the process of you sliding back downhill. But if you're doing the right things every day, if you're changing your environment, if you're getting around the right people, if you're shifting your focus, if you're leaning more on the sides of fruit of the spirit, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and not around the anxieties, the depressions, the worries, the fears, those things. If we're moving more towards that direction every day, we're putting things in place. We're reminding ourselves every day to think on good things. If we're actually doing that process, then you have to trust it and know that you are becoming the best version of yourself. You're growing. We all grow at different speeds and different rates. But if you are watching your habits, you're conscious of what you're doing every day, you'll know if you're headed in the right direction or not. So we can't rush the process. We got to trust the process. At the end of the day, we got to do whatever it takes. To get to the life you want, ladies and gentlemen, we got to do whatever it takes. We got to do whatever it takes. We got to perform at a higher level. We got to say, hey, even though I don't feel like doing this thing, I'm going to do it. Our feelings can't dictate our day. Our feelings can't dictate our goals. We have to get to a place where we know what we want and we're willing to do it. We're willing to sacrifice. We're willing to discipline ourselves. We're willing to grow our patience. Like we're willing to do the stuff. I know easier said than done. I'll always tell you that. I'm not ever going to try to make this sound like it's easier than it is, because it's not, but it's worth it. And it's the right thing. Again, the reason why we're on these calls aren't for everybody. That's why there's a select group of us that jump on. We can share it with people, but not everybody wants to change their life. Not everybody wants to get their life to a better place. Not everybody wants to get out of the emotional cycles that they're in, the shame cycles that they're in, the anxiety cycles that they're in. Some people are very comfortable with those emotions. Even though we might not like them, we're comfortable with them. We know what that feels like. It's that old saying, right? The devil within is greater than the devil unknown or something like that. I don't know. It's something about like knowing that like what's outside is scary. So even if the emotions or the things that we deal with or the poverty or whatever we deal with is something we don't like, it's actually comfortable to us because we've been living in that space for a very long time. And sometimes that's hard to break. When we get around our socioeconomic group, when we get around our friends, the people that we've been around, the same associations, and they live life at a certain level, and now we want to go off and do something different. We want to break into a new stratosphere. We want to feel different things. We want to experience different things. We want to make new money. We want to have new conversations, new relationships, all those things. But our brain goes to work keeping us comfortable. And if our comfort zone is all the things that we've been through, all those things, all those emotions, all those things that got us through rough seasons, that got us to this place, right? Because if there's any place to pat ourselves on the back, it's to know that you've gotten yourself through some rough seasons. No matter what, I know this human experience brings us a lot of things, a lot of tragedy, a lot of trials and tribulations. That's what this human experience brings us. So I know just by the fact that you got to this point in your life, you've come through a bunch of things. But some of those things that you develop to get you through those seasons of your life aren't the things that are going to take you to the next season of your life. It's not the same. It's not the same mindsets. It's not the same thoughts. It's not the same habits. It's none of those things. They got you through that season. They won't get you through the next season. So now this process is an unlearning to relearn. We are unlearning things that no longer serve us, unlearning mindsets that no longer serve us, unlearning habits that no longer serve us. I was just having a conversation yesterday with somebody about their finances. And oftentimes, some of you might deal with this, or you might know people that deal with it. Oftentimes, we create systems around our dysfunction, right? Or we create systems around our inadequacies. So when we have some fears, this lady had some fears around her money because in the past, right, she hadn't done the greatest things with it, found herself in some real rough positions. So now, out of some of those inadequacies and some of those fears around money, she's changed her habits. And so now she's got money all over the place because she created this system for herself to get her through this time that she had these fears about running out of money and being homeless again and all these things. So now we're going to have 6 different accounts that all got a little bit of money in them because it's going to make me feel a little bit better to know that I got a little bit somewhere. Well, she just created a system around her inadequacy, around her dysfunction, around her fear. She created a system around it. So we had a conversation of, well, we're trying to build wealth. Well, if we're going to build wealth, then that system that you created to get you through that season of your life is not actually going to help you get to the next season.